It's my great pleasure to introduce tonight's speaker, Andrea Pipp. Andrea serves as the program botanist for the Montana Natural Heritage Program. She earned a BA in zoology and an MS in wildlife biology from the University of Montana. Andrea became more interested in vascular plants because every wildlife biology job required studying the habitat. And later she became intrigued by mosses. She dabbled with liverworts. How many people can say that? And fungi. And she really took a liking to lichens. And that's her master's work was on lichens. So with 35 years of botany and wildlife experience, Andrea has worked in 12 states for the federal, state, and private sectors. Her specialties are in vascular plant, lichen, and bryophyte identification, surveying and monitoring, wetland delineation, and resource impact assessment. For the Heritage Program, Andrea manages the Botany Database, which is Montana's source for information on the status and distribution of Montana's flora, especially species of concern. So welcome, Andrea, and take it away.
Thank you very much, Beth. Okay, give me 1 second here. Okay, oh, wait. Nope. I'm sorry. You think you have this all figured out and then you...
I swear the buttons just disappear and then they pop up some other place. There you go. Started screen sharing.
Okay, so Beth, are you guys all seeing the slide that you put together for my presentation?
Yes, it's full screen. Thank you.
Perfect. All right. Well, thanks again. And thanks everyone for being here to listen to my presentation on a Montana Citizen Botany Program, a proposed framework. And yeah, so Montana's vegetation is very diverse. And there's at least 4,100 native and exotic vascular plants, lichens, and mosses. And what factors do you think contribute to this large diversity? For starters, Montana is influenced by 3 floristic provinces. In the western and central part of Montana, we have the Rocky Mountain province, defined by mountains. And in the eastern and central portions of the state, we have the Prairie province, defined by grasslands. Yet our state also has a lot of topographic relief. And at the higher elevations, you can find characteristics of the boreal province. Each province is influenced by different climates, and in combination with topography, soils, hydrology, creates numerous types of habitats. So of these 4,100 taxa, the Montana Natural Heritage Program has ranked 435 vascular plants as either a species of concern or a potential species of concern. So these plants are of conservation concern in Montana because they're either naturally rare due to their biology, or they're restricted in distribution or have a limited habitat, or they face significant threats to their population viability or habitat, or both. And although rare plants are less abundant in Montana, they are still important to conserve. Our rare plants contribute to biological diversity. They support numerous animals and other organisms, and they contribute to many ecological functions and health. Rare plants often add beauty, are fascinating, and provide us with many resources. However, our stewardship of Montana's rare plants are facing many challenges today. Formally trained botanists are in decline due to fewer botanical courses being taught and fewer botanical degrees being offered at our universities and colleges. Federal and state agencies who are responsible for managing our natural resources continue to face budget cuts and staff reductions, and often botany and wildlife jobs are consolidated. Emphasis on floristic inventories has waned, meaning that informative data on our rare plants is getting older. At least 5,500 occurrences of rare plants have not been visited in 20 to 50 years. And this map shows those rare plant occurrences as green polygons. Each occurrence is a discrete area where the plant has been found. And at these discrete areas, the mapping is often imprecise or it's outdated. So this begs the questions. Are these plants still present? Are their populations viable? And what's the condition of their habitat? Further, is Montana's state conservation status ranks valid and accurate? So state natural heritage programs are responsible for assessing the conservation status of a species. And each plant species is evaluated for many factors to determine its risk to extirpation in the state. So the scale ranges from S1, which are the plants at high risk to high risk of extirpation, to S5, which are the plants that are secure, common, and widespread. And in Montana, plants that are assigned in the ranks of an S1, S2, and an S3 are state level Montana species of concern. At the federal level, land management agencies can designate a special status for a species, such as making the plant sensitive or a species of conservation concern. And federal designations can aid in the conservation of the plant. So when determining if a plant should receive a special status, federal agencies take into consideration the state ranks produced by the natural heritage programs. And Montana species of concern plants that are ranked S1 and S2 are considered for federal agency level designations. But Montana species of concern that are ranked as an S3 are typically only considered if there's evidence-based current scientific data, and in our case, that data is for the Montana populations. So meanwhile, vegetation and habitat restoration projects are numerous. Lots of them are still happening. Botanical skills are desired and current accurate information is needed, and it's wanted. It's simply wanted. Yet there's a problem because agencies, consulting firms, and nonprofits engaged in vegetation projects and planning efforts may be basing management decisions that affect our native flora on old or missing data or coarsely mapped populations or locations. So tonight, I want to talk of a solution, a proposed idea to develop a citizen botany program for Montana. And I'll present the proposed framework, its components, structure, and monitoring process, whereby qualified botanists can collect current meaningful plant data. And I'll touch on the effectiveness found in the other state plant-based citizen science programs. I'll propose a pilot study to test our ability to build the program. And then I'll open it up for discussion. And I want to get your opinions. I want to answer questions and gauge your support for conducting this pilot study. So aligned in mission, the Montana Natural Heritage Program and Montana Native Plant Society are our state's most prominent organizations that focus on native plant species and their habitats. The Montana Natural Heritage Program's mission is to be Montana's source for reliable and comprehensive information and expertise to support stewardship of our native species and habitats, emphasizing those of conservation concern. The Montana Native Plant Society's goals are to preserve, conserve, and study the native plants and plant communities of Montana, and to educate the public about the values of our native flora. So from these organizations, a citizen botany working group established in 2019. And what I am presenting today comes from the collective effort of Elizabeth Bergstrom, Ryan Quire, Denise Montgomery, Caroline Kurtz, and myself. And I am very appreciative for their enthusiasm and time to research and contemplate this idea. So the working group set out to learn from other state natural heritage programs, native plant societies, master naturalists, and other citizen science programs. So those organizations that are bolded on the slide were interviewed by our working group. We investigated, what does it take to have a successful citizen science program for plants? And are the conditions in Montana favorable for a citizen science program? And what we learned was that a well-coordinated, structured, and funded citizen science program can collect meaningful plant data useful to natural heritage programs, federal and state agencies, and non-government organizations. Based on our research, we wrote a proposed framework for a Montana Citizen Botany Program, and you can find it on the Native Plant Society website under the What's New tab. And you can also find it on the Montana Natural Heritage Program site under Botany Reports. And Beth also put it into the chat earlier on, and I think she'll put it in again at the end of the chat. So I encourage you all to take a look at it, and feel free to give me feedback at any time. So in our proposed framework, the primary goals initially would focus on recruiting citizen botanists to relocate known occurrences of rare vascular plants on public lands, to collect specific population, plant, and habitat data, map the plant's location, and document those findings with photographs. The goal would be to revisit each rare plant occurrence at least once every 10 years. The secondary goal is to build a network of citizen botanists across Montana. And as the program matures and is funded, the services can be broadened to include revisiting rare lichen and moss occurrences, revisiting rare occurrences on private lands, collecting native plant seed, monitoring doing demographic monitoring or some other kind of monitoring, helping in research, conducting plant inventories, or fulfilling some other need that is out there. So with maturity, the program supports a network of citizen botanists who assist in plant-focused tasks important to public land management agencies, academia, non-government organizations, as well as the Montana Natural Heritage Program. So this slide shows you what rare plant occurrences may look like. The polygons in blue or pink represent an occurrence that is a discrete area where you find the plant. Some polygons are precisely mapped, while others are just perfect circular polygons. Montana's 435 vascular plants grow in a spectrum of habitats, from disturbed, pristine areas, from roadsides to wilderness, aquatic to terrestrial habitats, lower elevation valleys to the highest elevations in the alpine zone. Some plants are easy to find, or to see, I should say. Others will put you on your hands and your knees to find them. Some plants are easy to identify, while others require that technical key and microscope. So how would a Montana Citizen Botany Program work? Well, first, the program needs to be an official partnership between the Montana Natural Heritage Program and the Montana Native Plant Society. And second, it requires 4 essential components: the Montana Natural Heritage Botanist, a Montana Native Plant Society coordinator, a website interface, and citizen botanists. Each has defined roles and responsibilities in our proposal. The Natural Heritage Botanist would manage all aspects of plant data provided to and collected by the citizen botanist, and develops plant collecting, mapping protocols, and tools. The coordinator would be a paid position with the Native Plant Society and be at least 20 hours a week. The coordinator would manage the volunteers and the entire process from recruiting to tracking their assignments. The coordinator would also write the annual report on the program. And jointly, The coordinator and the botanist would develop and co-teach the training materials, co-lead forays, and secure funding for the program. The website interface connects potential volunteers and citizen botanists with the program and the coordinator. And we envision the interface to be housed on the Society's website. We envision a public webpage that stores program information, the application form, the annual report, and much more. We envision a password-protected webpage that houses the plant. It's a snapshot of the plant data, plus the application data, tracks assignments, and more. The Society's website is powered by Cedar Mountain Software, who also have the technical expertise to develop this interface tool. And lastly, the program needs volunteers. So people apply to the program and they must meet minimum qualifications. They have to have at least one science class of high school level or higher. They need to be familiar with basic botanical terms and the process for identifying plants. They need to be able and willing to follow monitoring protocols and independently be able to conduct field work or lead a group field trip. So who are potential volunteers that might qualify to be a citizen botanist, and where do you find them? Citizen botanists are people who enjoy identifying plants, people in various life stages, from being a student who took a class, a plant class, someone who is building their career, to someone who is retired. There are people who have worked professionally as a botanist, a biologist, a gardener, or in some other position. They are amateur botanists or plant enthusiasts who learn about plants as they recreate, photograph, seek being a master naturalist, or complete coursework. And I'm guessing that many of you are or have the potential to be a citizen botanist. So how does the process work? Well, the Natural Heritage Program botanist would query the botany database, and all 5,500 occurrences where the rare plant has not been visited for 20 to 50 years would be in that query initially. And from there, the botanist would also reach out to the public land managers to get input on the species or the locations where they would like current data. And then the botanist would compile into a spreadsheet a subset of maybe 100 to 200 rare plant occurrences and associated pertinent information. So things like the family, the species name, the geographic region it's within Montana, the county it's in, and then a central latitude, longitude for that occurrence, as well as the size of that occurrence. And then the phenology. What are the months when that plant is identifiable? And then there would be an identification rating. You know, is the plant challenging, moderate, easy, or require a technical key to identify? And some priority category, like how important is it that we get information on this occurrence? So it is this spreadsheet of data that will allow the citizen botanist to select a plant that fits their interest, their geography, and their skill set. So once compiled, the spreadsheet would circulate back to the pertinent public land managers to get an initial clearance that the location can safely be accessed. And the final spreadsheet would be uploaded to the website interface. Meanwhile, potential volunteers inquire and complete an application form during a predefined time frame, let's say February to April. And the slide, this slide shows Washington's rare care application form. So the coordinator reviews applications, and approved volunteers become citizen botanists. Applicants that lack the basic skill set are notified, and ideally, they would be informed as to how to acquire the skills and be asked to reapply to the program in the future. So approved citizen botanists would be required to attend a training co-taught by the coordinator and the botanist. And the training does not teach on plant identification because that's a prerequisite of the program. Rather, the training teaches about the program, how to navigate the website to select plant locations and make their assignments, and specifics about data collection and mapping. Citizen botanists would be given password-protected access to the plant data. And this slide shows Washington's Rare Care program for accessing the plant data. Citizen botanists peruse a series of menus to find 2 plant locations that fit their interest, skill set, and geography. And one can browse this plant data by either looking at the entire species list, or they could select criteria for a particular region of the state, a county, the time of year they want to visit. You know, they could pick a certain priority, or they could select on how easy is it to identify that plant. Or they can select for a certain genus name or for a certain species. And selecting by criteria gives the citizen botanist a list of plants, locations, phenology, and other details so they can determine what plant occurrence is best for them to revisit. And once the citizen botanist selects their 2 assignments, they will receive an informational packet with past observation data, maps, contacts to the local managing agency, and much more. They would learn how to collect the data, map and photograph the plants in the habitat, how to use Survey 123, and also how to complete paper forms, how to implement safety measures to complete the assignment safely and successfully, and other details. So for those who are not familiar, Survey 123 is an app that can be downloaded to a mobile phone or a tablet that is enabled with GPS. And the Natural Heritage Program develops specific forms in Survey 123, catered to plant and animal data collection. So citizen botanists are provided access to the Natural Heritage forms, all of which are free to the user. And the form not only allows for data collection, but it also maps your location as a latitude, longitude, if you're in cell coverage. It prompts you to take photographs, and it gives options for you to send the data. So once the citizen botanist returns from the field to a place where there is Wi-Fi, they have the option to directly send all the data and photographs directly to the Montana Natural Heritage Program. Or the citizen botanist also has the option to store the data, review it, modify it, and send it at a later time to the Natural Heritage Program. So here's an example from Washington's Rare Care Program that shows the written information provided to the volunteer. And it provides the plant locations, past observation data, description of the site, and you can see a lot of other details. And again, the goal for each citizen botanist is to select 2 plant locations to revisit, collect data, and provide results. And the citizen botanist is given 2 years to complete their 2 assignments. And that's because life happens. Sometimes the revisit needs to get delayed. Other times one needs to scout out the route before conducting the revisit. So I want to now switch topics to outline 2 citizen science programs that have been successful for addressing plants. Our proposed framework for Montana is heavily influenced by Washington's Rare Plant Care and Conservation Program. Washington has about 3,100 vascular plants, of which 350 are rare and represented by 3,500 occurrences. The program was initiated in 2001, and it's housed at the Washington Botanic Gardens, and it partners with the Washington Natural Heritage Program. An advisory team meets each year to set priorities and develop funding ideas. And each year an annual report is written. So since 2001, volunteers have made over 2,300 sighting reports and logged more than 53,000 hours to document rare plants. In 2018, 99 volunteers completed 127 sighting reports. In 2020, and under the impacts of COVID-19, 65 volunteers completed 58 sighting reports. So this means that volunteers have successfully relocated the location and either collected plant data or documented absence and reported the information to complete the assignment. And I want to point out that the Washington Native Plant Society teaches a plant identification class and charges at least $150 for each participant. So volunteers that don't qualify for rare care are asked to take that class and then to reapply. And the funding for Rare Care's program comes from a variety of sources, which has changed over the years as well. The California Native Plant Society launched rare plant treasure hunts in 2010. And this program focuses on revisiting rare plants, seed collecting, conducting inventories for plants previously thought to be extinct, and more recently are monitoring land burned by fires. So the program coordinates with the California Natural Heritage Program, and each chapter of the society appoints a member who coordinates rare plant revisits. Some chapters use trained botanists to work with volunteers to revisit the plants. Other chapters pick a specific group of plants, internally trained members for that group, and then conduct a series of field trips on that particular group. Some chapters adopt a plant for a 2-year period, conducting field trips and collecting data. But regardless of the method, society members revisit rare plants, collect data, and ultimately return data back to the California Natural Heritage Program. In 2021, about 200 volunteers participated and 165 rare plant occurrences got revisited. And this was in a year with COVID. In previous years, they had much higher turnouts with many more rare plants visited. So building a Montana Citizen Botany Program is not a small task. And although I think this proposed framework is quite good, there's no guarantee that it will be successful, despite the fact that obtaining current data on our species of concern plants is a greatest need. The Citizen Botany Working Group would like to test the capabilities for the Plant Society and the Natural Heritage Program to jointly develop the Montana Citizen Botany Program by implementing a pilot study. So this presentation marks a beginning, and I'll be sure to leave time at the end here to hear your comments, address questions, and gauge your interest. This winter, Natural Heritage staff, along with a botany volunteer who has experience conducting revisits to rare plants, will be developing a new form. So this revisit form is being designed to record the data that is specific to relocating a target plant, as well as assessing the plant's health and its habitat. The revisit form is in Survey 123, and it also prompts for photographs and can record your location if you're in cell coverage. But the revisit form will also be available as a hard copy paper form, because sometimes our fancy technology just fails us. So it's good to have backups. So the Citizen Botany Working Group is proposing a 2-year pilot study. And the purpose is to develop and test components of this program, such as training materials, Survey 123 forms, and others. The purpose is also to create a small subset of rare plant data, but without the help of a website interface. And then the purpose as well is to recruit and train a few citizen botanists, have them select plant occurrences to revisit, collect data, and report findings. So we are aiming to raise $15,000, which would allow the working group to test all aspects of this program except for the website interface. Elizabeth and myself will be submitting a proposal to the Montana Native Plant Society Board to seek $5,000. And I'll also be reaching out to federal and state agencies and non-government organizations to see if they can contribute or match this amount. And with funding, Kenda Herman, who is my botany assistant, would serve as the coordinator for the pilot study. In that capacity, Kenda will develop training materials and work with each chapter of the society to recruit and train a citizen botanist, a person who can lead a group field trip to test the process, the tools, collect some data and report findings. And at the annual meeting, I'll be leading a workshop on June 24th to introduce and test some of the tools and materials as well. And we'll also be training a few heritage volunteers to test tools and materials. So now with that, I'd like to open it up for discussion. And I'd like to hear your opinions and questions regarding building a Montana Citizen Botany Program. Would you support the pilot study? And if so, in what capacity? In what other? Yeah, I just want to open it up and get your questions and opinions on this idea. So thanks for listening to me.
Thank you so much, Andrea. And folks can see, I did put in the chat a link to the proposed framework for our Citizen Botany Program. It's on the Native Plant Society website under What's New, and the Heritage Program also has it listed. And that is a 40-page document. You know, a lot of thought and work has gone into this. So we'd encourage you all to get a hold of that link and check it out. And these guys really welcome your feedback. And here we'll be talking about it here tonight. And I see some questions are rolling in already. You want me to just start going, Andrea?
Sure, that works.
Okay. Well, Christy is wondering if the survey sites will be rated as to how difficult they are to access. For example, how long the hike is, maybe, and how much elevation change. She could imagine that some sites might be driven to, and others might require a backpacking trip and many in between in difficulty.
Right. So, you know, we have in the framework this rating of how difficult or easy is the plant to identify. We have a priority rating for how important the site is to get information for. And I too was thinking that we really should have some kind of rating for how difficult or easy might this plant be. And it would have to be a really general rating. And of course, we'd outline, you know, what goes into that rating, because what could be difficult for some person might not be difficult for another person. So, but the thing is that, and I haven't really figured this out with the pilot study because I don't have that website interface. But with the website interface, you know, people can click on stuff. They can peruse a map of where that plant is. They can get a sense of the terrain because it would be a topographic map behind it. There'll also be an aerial photo behind it. And so we would want to provide some of that information for the pilot too. I just not sure how it would work, but just having some kind of aerial photo and topographic map would, at maybe a couple different scales, would allow somebody to assess for themselves. Is this difficult or is it easy? A lot of these plants, it may not be real cut and dry how to access them. So someone's going to have to take some time to, you know, maybe look at the trail maps or look at the road map and see how far away it is and what the elevation is. So yeah, I think, you know, we can provide a certain amount of information up front, and then we have to leave it to the person who's querying the information to kind of do some of their research too, to pick a site that they think is doable for them.
And along the same line, Barbara has a recommendation for an option to team up with others to relocate species in especially remote areas or difficult habitats. So maybe that would happen through field trips or impromptu groupings.
Yeah, yeah, and with the pilot study, we're really envisioning working with the chapters of the society. And so I think, with working at a particular chapter, and if we can get kind of a lead coordinator for that chapter, and then we can, we can work on some communication and see, oh, maybe there's two people that would love to do a backpacking trip together, and see if we can pair up some people to do. They always wanted to go into the Bob. Well, maybe they go into the Bob to go find one of these rare plants. But not all these sites are difficult to get to. A lot of them are along roads, paved roads or dirt roads. But yeah, I think there's opportunities. So that's a good suggestion to try to pair people up.
Now, Robin Klein has a very good question. Who in Montana is teaching plant ID? She teaches it, but she wonders who else is.
Well, if you're teaching it, maybe you could advertise, we could get a few more classes together. And I know Matt Lavin is here in the audience, so maybe he could chime, but I don't know. MSU has had some plant classes in the past. Maybe Peter Lessica could say what's happening at the University of Montana. I'm not sure myself.
Sure.
Yeah. I do know that the ecology group at the O'Connor Center at the University of Montana, they got a grant. They're going to be doing some wetland plant training classes. So I do know that will be happening in the spring.
And I see in the comments Rocky Mountain Flora at University of Montana with Dr. Lila Fishman. As a comment. And there are a lot of comments rolling in, which is excellent. Thank you, everyone. I would love to join this project as a citizen botanist. How can I get involved? Someone else says, this is 100% awesome. Someone says, how would I support a citizen botany program? With enthusiasm. I can be a citizen botanist since I moved away. Oh, maybe they can't. That says, this is so inspiring, more support. Can you explain how the pilot program would be launched?
Well, the first part of it is to acquire the funding. So like I said, Elizabeth and I are going to start off with a proposal to the Native Plant Society, but at the same time, I will be having some meetings with various folks at the U.S. Forest Service and BLM. I would like to contact some people at the Department of Natural Resources and Conservation, Fish, Wildlife and Parks, Department of Environmental Quality, Department of Transportation, to see about the potential for contributing to this pilot study. Because in order to do it, we need the funding to be able to do it. With a couple of exceptions, right? We already are committed to creating these revisit forms in Survey 123. So that will be happening. And I am going to be presenting and testing some materials at the annual meeting for the Native Plant Society, June 24th up in Libby. So those things will be happening for sure. And I will say that I've been in this position for 7 years, and every year there's people out there that are citizen botanists. I just haven't called them that yet, but they're out there trying to relocate something and providing information and data to us. It's just that it's been a little bit more awkward because I haven't gotten that really nice form put together for what do you really need to fill out when you're revisiting a plant. And I don't have the Survey 123. So that stuff we're going to develop, and we're going to be able to test some of these materials. Yeah.
All right. Well, there's 39, now there's 40 new messages have rolled in, but let me try to access a bunch of these. I've had some botany in college. I identified plants to the extent of my ability. Can we have a course about how to keep plants?
How to keep plants.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think these are spin-offs that, maybe depending on how our funding goes, maybe we could pull together a couple little short plant classes. I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Rachel says, it seems that coordination with partners in the Montana plant conservation strategy, both land management agencies and others, would be important partners, both for funding as well as training and more. Are there plans to engage those partners?
Yeah, well, the strategy is definitely going to suggest that Montana could use a citizen botany program, and that this would be a great way to implement getting current data on our rare plants. So, but it's an overarching strategy, and it will probably go into a little bit more detail of some strategic direction.
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Liz from Helena says it would be really interested in sharing this opportunity with our Master Naturalist program here in
Yes.
Helena and the Youth Forest Monitoring Program, high school citizen scientists led by field instructors. And then we're getting just a lot of definitely interested. Here's a question. Do you have any information or metrics on how well the data collected by the established citizen botany groups were materially used by state and government agencies?
Well, they definitely go into those ranks. I know Walt Fertig, who is the botanist for the Washington Natural Heritage Program, he would not be able to maintain current ranking for some of these plants if it weren't for these people out there collecting the data and bringing it to the Natural Heritage Program. And so it's, I guess I'd have to have other people kind of be able to give you specifics, but I know that that data goes into the databases and it is used for a lot of planning and ranking and project work. Yeah, I do want to comment on Liz's on the Master Naturalist programs. So those programs already are teaching on plants. They have sections of their program that are focused on plant identification and terms and stuff. And I definitely would like to see this program and even our pilot coordinate with Master Naturalist programs. I think it's a great way, especially for those who want to go for being a certified Master Naturalist, that they could be the citizen botanist then, because that coursework for several of them will provide enough information that they could do these rare plant surveys or revisits. Yeah.
And now I've got 52 new messages. I'm getting overwhelmed here, but I do want everyone to know we're recording this. So we're going to have a record of all this chat, which is really nice because people are saying, happy to participate with my students in a class lab activity. Yes, I'm interested. And oh my goodness.
Yeah, and this is great. So please do keep putting in your comments, or I guess the one thing I did not do, I could put it into the chat myself, is I'll give you my contact information. And so
yes,
I would appreciate any feedback on the proposal that we put together, on the presentation, or on your experiences if you've been a citizen scientist or if you've led that kind of effort. So, and I do apologize that I didn't have my contact information up earlier, but well, I'm going to put it into the chat right now. It's apip@mt.gov.
And how do you like this? Here's a comment. If you opened it up to donations, I would donate. So that's nice to hear. We love
Yeah.
to hear that kind of support. If anyone's doing this in the Little Belts, I could help support. And then it says, many of us can't commit the time to a semester-long course because a lot of people are offering the university courses as options. Are there other options for learning or refreshers on
Yeah.
Plant ID?
You know, I think there are. I think it's about coordinating. There's
Yeah.
certainly been short courses taught in the past. I know in Helena, we have Carroll College and we've had some summer sessions there. I know in my position, I did one intermediate intermediate wetland plant class, which focused on grasses and sedges and willows. And we've done some short courses in the past. So I think it's about coordinating, getting some funding there, and then you know, seeing how we can I don't know. I do see plant classes as being kind of a side to this citizen botany, like it's supporting the citizen botany, and it goes both ways. People do this kind of revisiting to learn, but maybe they're also using this to first learn before they revisit. So yeah, the potential's there, and I certainly would like to develop teaching more into this.
And we've got several people are offering to teach Plant ID at the annual meeting and in the YAC.
Oh, wonderful.
And someone suggests, you know, possibly we could collect all these plant class opportunities and email out the opportunities, which is a great idea. And Robin's asking, will this be a nonprofit and open to donations?
Yeah, well, right now, you know, I think, I don't think I'm really the person to answer that question, but I will say that when coordinating a nonprofit with a natural heritage program, you know, there's avenues for that. Yeah, there's avenues for contributing for the Citizen Botanist program. And I would assume making it tax deductible too, but that stuff we'll have to explore some more.
This is amazing that now there's 63 new messages coming in, and people are, you people in the audience are probably able to read them better than I am because I'm trying to engage in the discussion. But you know, a lot of our Native Plant Society chapters sponsor Plant ID classes. For those of you who are new, you know, you can look to your local chapters for field trips and trainings and stuff. So Christy has another comment. With such high plant diversity here, it might make sense to have some specific training to identify the rare plants in a certain area of Montana, more rather than a generic statewide training, for example, rare plants in the Priors or rare plants in Fens.
Yeah, yeah. And like what California did, some of those chapters, they said, you know, we're just going to focus on a particular group. So it could just be orchids, you know, or something like that. And, you know, the thing is that the citizen botanist doesn't need to know everything. They just need to know the one plant that they decided they're going to go look for. And so part of the training materials are going to point them to places where they can learn more about the plant, its lookalikes. They can have materials they can take with them. They can find their best book they like to take with them. And so when they go out there and do their searching, they have a good search image to begin with. And then, you know, they have some resources to confirm it when they get to that spot where they think they have seen the plant. So, and then of course they'll photograph it. There's potential that, you know, it might be a species where we're going to say if there's enough plants, take a specimen. You know, there's nuances for some of these plants that, you know, it'll be a little different for every plant and what that person is, what the material is that that person's going to gather to give them the resources they need.
And will all the sites be on public property, or will there be some on private property as well?
Yeah, so initially we're going to just do public land, and our pilot, well, the program itself, that I will be doing the first cut to try to put plant occurrences in the list in the search box that have gotten some kind of vetting of being safe to access. And that's where I'm going to be working with the public land managers. So if there's an active timber sale, that's not the place that I'm going to ask somebody to go to. But then the person, once they make their assignment, the citizen botanist will also have the contact information, and it will be upon them to contact and make sure that nothing else has changed, roads are open, something like that, it's okay to go and access. So.
And again, we're just getting dozens of people who are ready to sign up and are really super supportive. William says, he mentions the whole iNaturalist framework, and that's creating a cohort of amateur botanists, and he wonders if there might be a way to reach out and involve them.
Yeah, certainly. So we're interested in working with other groups that are kind of already doing this kind of work. It's just that our task would be more focused on a species in a location. But yeah, I think there's a lot of power to working with iNaturalists and other citizen science programs out there.
Someone's asking if U of M has an herbarium.
They do. They have a wonderful herbarium.
Yes.
And the herbaria are great places to learn about what your plant looks like up close and in person. And so that is some of the training materials that, once a person decides what plant they're going to go find, then we're going to point them to the herbaria that have those specimens. And we have 3 state herbaria. One's in Bozeman at Montana State University, one's in Missoula at the University of Montana, and one's in Billings at Montana State University, Billings. They don't all have the same array of species and specimens, but nonetheless, there are places out there so you can see the plant ahead of time, close up, and that gives you a good feeling for what you need to identify.
Yeah. Connie's asking for some clarification. She said her master naturalist class advised them to report plant sightings to Montana's iNaturalist with the understanding that they get added to the heritage program data if the ID is confirmed by 3 folks on the site. Is that correct information?
Yeah. And if Bryce is out there, he could probably chime in, but my understanding is that we are bringing in that data. And I think more of the animal data is definitely going into the database. Some of the plant data is, I think we're looking at it a little bit more critically. And but we are working to try to bring in some of that if we feel like it's accurate. And of course, sometimes it's hard to make those judgments, but between what iNaturalist, go ahead, Bryce.
Their question is regarding iNaturalist data.
Yeah,
we are going to really ramp up our efforts to integrate iNaturalist data this year, and we are already working with the staff at iNaturalist to do that, starting with establishing some criteria for which species should have their locations obscured, and also developing just workflow for downloading from their application programming interface to download the data. And perhaps most importantly for this group, establishing a list of people that we can trust that if they have verified that a species is what it is, we can trust that ID. Someone in the comments had noted that, you know, if 3 people agree on an ID, it reaches research grade. We found that that's not always reliable because 2 people, those people may all agree but be wrong. So we want to establish a list of people that, you know, if they say that's what it is, that's what it is. So iNaturalist is a great way of reporting data, though, for now.
Thank you.
And Rachel has a great idea. She's wondering if you're out there and you're a volunteer who might be willing to do a bunch of searching and provide a list of basic plant ID courses, long ones or short ones, or through naturalists, master naturalist programs in, say, the next year, someone who would gather those together, and it could be posted on our website and publicized through our newsletter. So if you're someone who's out there and feels somewhat connected or wants to be connected and ferret those things out, you could let Andrea know that that's an area where you could help. And I think it would be really helpful because sometimes there's a lot of things going on and we're just not aware of them.
Yeah, and I will say that I get a lot of people asking me for plant identification classes and stuff. So if you're a teacher, you know, I'd be happy. I'd love to talk to you about to see if, you know, how we can get some courses going. And because there's a lot of people out there who would like to take some classes.
So Nate's asking, where can we find the specific species you are interested in locating?
Oh, that's a good question. And, you know, yeah, I didn't put that into my presentation at all. So you can search on Montana Natural Heritage Program. You can pull up our homepage and you can look for the Montana Field Guide. And in the field guide, there's a little search window and you can just type in scientific name, a common name, and it will bring up anything that has that name. So it's going to bring up animals too. But or you can you'll see there's drop downs and you can look for like a certain taxa group. You can go into a family, a genus, and you can drill down through the taxonomy. But the Montana Field Guide, it's there's different ways to query it. So if you're a little bit unsure about how to query it, just go ahead and send a message to me at apipp@mt.gov, and I can give you some pointers on searching in the Montana Field Guide. Yeah.
And there's some nice discussion about how so much of our herbaria is available digitally now. And Claire shared this link. I'm just gonna share it again here. Oops, that's the wrong one. But a lot of the herbaria specimens are available digitally, and you can see the you can see that in the links here. I lost that.
The Consortium of the Pacific Northwest.
Yeah, Pacific Northwest. Yeah.
Yep.
Here we go.
It's a great database to pull up images and
there you go.
Look at the specimen labels, and you can query certain areas, you know, for what plants are out there.
And Christy's pointing out how you can query on the species of concern in your area and get a list from the Montana Field Guide. You know, you can do it by county, and there's a lot of ways. It is amazing once you get in there what you can do, and Bryce gave us a great program on that last year. So I'd encourage everyone to get in there and take a look around.
And I should also mention on our website for Montana Natural Heritage Program, you can also click on Species Snapshot, and then it will give you drop downs of, do you want just the species of concern? Do you want species vascular plants? And do you want to see them in a certain county or whatever? And it will give you a list. And then with that list, you can click to the field guide to see more information about that plant. And
Great.
I do want to say one thing, that my goal for the Montana Field Guide, for the plant field guide, is to, well, if you go there and you query on the noxious weeds, you're going to find more completed profiles on those plants. And that's where I want to get our species of concern. And so part of this citizen botany thing will also be me putting more effort into that plant field guide and populating more information for the species of concern, so that you know what the lookalikes are. You know, you have photographs, you have detailed descriptions, and you know more about the habitat and other interesting things about the plants. And so as this, if we can get the citizen botany program started, and if we can get a pilot, you're also going to find that the plant field guide is going to grow with better, more useful data. So if you're a little disappointed right now with it, just know it's going to get better. It just, sometimes it just takes, you know, something else getting started.
Yeah, for sure. And I don't know if you have more direct questions, Andrea, to ask the audience, or if there's anyone who doesn't want to type something into the chat and they would just want to unmute themselves and make a comment or observation or ask a question, you can feel free to unmute yourself and speak out, or you can raise your hand and we'll call on you. So
Yeah. About how much time do you think we have, or?
well, I mean, people are free to leave, but
Okay.
I mean, people are engaged. Here's someone asking, how exactly do we apply? There have been several questions about how we
Right.
apply to the program, which might be getting a little bit ahead, but isn't that
Yeah.
nice?
Yeah, it is getting a little bit ahead. This is a proposed framework, and so we're going to test it, right? So the first thing is we're going to develop some materials, and if you want to come to the annual meeting, that's one way to apply right now, right? Just come up and be at the workshop. But you know, if we get funding, then we're gonna develop an application. We're gonna develop a process, and if you're definitely interested in being part of the pilot, you know, being a citizen botanist for the pilot, then, you know, send me your contact information, and if we get our funding together, then I could reach back out to you, you know, with maybe an application or something, and we can talk more, you know, and because I'm sure a lot of people will be interested, and then when it comes to it, it's just, you know, is it the right time and place? You know, are my needs and your needs meeting up that you could actually be a citizen botanist for the pilot? So we'll just take things one step at a time here.
Great. Rachel Potter?
Hi, yeah, I just wanted to point out, it was actually Andrew Smith in the chat pointed out that Bryce Maxwell's excellent program on using the Montana Plant Field Guide and as well as iNaturalist is archived. So if you go to, if you Google, I guess it's the Clark Fork chapter, but just on YouTube, the
No,
Montana
it's Valley of Flowers.
Oh, Valley of Flowers. Oh, of course, archive that. So that's an excellent program. It really helps you a lot with navigating the plant field guide.
Yeah, thank you. That's, yeah. Yeah, so if any of you have experience leading a citizen science or a project where you use citizen science, you know, I don't know if this may not be the right time to provide some input from you, but feel free to share it with me through an email, or if you want to comment on your experience, you know, because we can develop a better program, but kind of learning from each other. And even though our group has done quite a bit of research, you know, it's always good to hear what people's experiences are. And so, yeah, so good or bad. Let's see here.
Well, it's wonderful. We have all this preserved in the chat, all the interests that people have pointed out, and we would we would definitely encourage you to keep in touch with Andrea. I'm going to go ahead and